all the way up to the floods of 2019 and 2020, when cities from Milwaukee to Toronto were spending hundreds of millions of dollars strengthening shorelines that had never needed it before. Then came the fall of 2023. It was dry. The fall of 2024 was drier. The fall of 2025 was worse. 3 fall seasons in a row, below average across the basin, right when the lakes are supposed to be topping off before winter locks them down. That kind of back-to-back autumn shortage hadn't happened since the early 2000s, and the last time it did, it took the lakes nearly 10 years to climb back. The pattern is clear. Dry falls mean less runoff, less refilling, and a system that's already behind heading into spring. The 2025 summer made it worse. It was hot across the Midwest. Lake surface temperatures climbed to near-record highs. That might sound like a good thing. It isn't. Evaporation is highest when cold, dry winter air blows across warm, open water. A hot summer followed by a cold winter is the worst setup for losing water to the air. On top of that, ice cover across the Great Lakes has been shrinking for decades. Seasonal ice cover has dropped by about 25% over the past 50 years. February 2024 saw basin-wide ice at around 7%. The long-term average top is closer to 70%, a tenfold gap in a single winter. Less ice means more open water. More open water means more weeks of evaporation. And from October 2025 through January 2026, evaporation ran above normal on every Great Lake except Erie. The system was losing water during months when it's supposed to be gaining it. Now here is the part that makes all of this harder to undo. A drop of water that falls into Lake Superior today takes, on average, 191 years to leave the system. 191 years. Less than 1% of all the water in the Great Lakes is replaced each year. The rest was left behind by retreating glaciers over 10,000 years ago, locked into basins carved during the last ice age. If every faucet, factory, and intake pipe shut down tomorrow and no more water was ever taken out, the lakes would still take over 100 years to refill from where they are now. The water you are seeing right now shows what has been happening for years. And what is happening right now will affect lake levels for years to come. This is the key thing that gets missed about the Great Lakes. They do not react quickly. You cannot fix them with one rainy spring. You cannot drain them in one dry summer. They move on a timeline measured in decades, not seasons, and that means every year of imbalance piles on top of the last one, which is a pretty uneasy thought if you were hoping for a rainy spring to fix this. So, who actually gets hurt by this? If you do not live on the Great Lakes, you might be wondering why any of this should matter to you. Fair enough. Let's go through it. Start with shipping. The Great Lakes support a $17 billion shipping industry. Cargo ships carry iron ore from Minnesota down to the steel mills in Gary, Indiana, where it gets turned into the beams, rebar, and sheet steel that build American roads and buildings. They haul grain out of Thunder Bay, Ontario, headed for sale overseas through the St. Lawrence Seaway. They move limestone from Michigan quarries to cement plants across the basin. They carry coal, road, salt, and oil. Over 160 million metric tons a year flow across this connected system of 2,000 miles of waterways. The whole thing runs on depth. Every inch of water level loss forces a cargo ship to lighten its load. For a typical 1,000-foot laker, that's around 270 tons per inch. One iron ore carrier that crosses Lake Superior has to drop 267 tons of cargo for every single inch of lost depth. Over 30 or more trips in a season, that adds up to millions of dollars in lost earnings on one ship alone. At the fleet level, it is about $30,000 of lost earnings per inch per trip. Times that by dozens of trips per season across a fleet of over 100 ships, and the math gets ugly fast. In 2025, United States flagged Great Lakes cargo ships carried 71.3 million tons of cargo. That is an 8.9% drop from 2024. Iron ore shipments alone fell 10.8%. The outlook from inside the industry is blunt. If levels stay below average, ships will need to watch depths and loading windows more closely in several key channels just to avoid getting stuck on the bottom. Not everyone hurt is on a big cargo ship. In October of 2025, water levels on the St. Lawrence River, which is the system draining the entire Great Lakes Basin into the Atlantic, dropped nearly 2 meters below normal near Montreal. That is over 6 feet. The marinas along that river were hit hard. At Marina de la Rive Nord in Repentigny, Quebec, boats sat stuck on cracked,